Okay, so are you ready for another deep dive?
Always up for an adventure, especially if it involves talking about interesting stories.
Great. Then buckle up, because today we're heading straight into the fascinating world of WhiskerMart. Um, it's this really unique narrative that it imagines a supermarket, but not just any supermarket, right?
Oh, I think I know where this is going.
Yeah, this one's completely filled with animal families. Just picture it. All sorts of creatures pushing their shopping carts, grabbing groceries, dealing with kids who just want all the sugary snacks.
Sounds both delightful and chaotic at the same time.
Exactly. It's like a slice of life, but with a twist.
A furry, feathery, and scaled twist, it seems.
You got it. And that's precisely what we're going to explore today. We're going to try to uncover what makes this story tick.
I'm in. I'm always curious to see what insights we can get from these kinds of narratives.
Me too. And I think WhiskerMart offers a really fun lens to look at some pretty relatable stuff.
Hmm.
Things like community, consumerism, even the joys and challenges of family life.
You had me at animal families doing their weekly shopping.
Right.
Ecco.
Just imagine the possibilities. Okay, so first impressions.
Yeah.
What really jumped out at you from this story?
Honestly, the thing that immediately grabbed me was the whole anthropomorphic setting. It's such a clever way to explore human behavior.
Yeah. It's like holding up a funhouse mirror to ourselves, right?
Exactly. Seeing animals going about their shopping routines, it makes you think about our own habits and tendencies in a completely new way. And you can't help but chuckle at some of the absurdities. Like, I don't know about you, but I've definitely had moments where I felt like I was in a jungle when trying to navigate a crowded supermarket aisle.
Totally. Is that perfect blend of whimsy and social commentary, making you think without hitting you over the head with a message. It reminds me of that scene with little Pounce, where he thinks the fish display is a lake and tries to jump in.
Oh, that was priceless. Talk about a fresh perspective. It's adorable, but it also makes you wonder about how differently children, well, in this case, kittens, perceive the world.
It really does. And it takes you a step further, right? Like, how would other species see a place like a supermarket? It's a space that's completely designed for human needs and desires. Would they find it strange? Confusing? Maybe even a little bit intimidating?
Absolutely. The story does a fantastic job of highlighting these different perspectives, and it's not just the kids either.
Oh, for sure. Like with Mr. Mittens, right? The dad.
Avocado enthusiast.
That's him. Mr. Mittens. The picture of a dignified, composed dad completely losing it over finding the perfect avocado. It's a reminder that no matter how put together we might seem, we all have those little things that make us tick.
Our little obsessions.
Exactly. And speaking of families, did you feel like the Whisker family dynamic felt relatable?
Totally. It's like watching a slightly more, shall we say, animated version of families we see every day. You've got Mr. Mittens trying his best to maintain order, Mrs. Whiskerbell, the voice of reason, keeping everything from completely derailing.
And the kids, being kids, like little Splotch scaling the orange display,
Yeah.
and Pouts setting off every squeaky toy in the aisle.
It's pure chaos. And I think every parent out there has experienced a version of that supermarket meltdown at some point. It's
Yeah.
what makes it so funny and so real.
The supermarket just becomes this microcosm of family life.
Absolutely. A place where the mundane and the extraordinary collide. You've got parents juggling their to-do lists, managing expectations, and all while navigating the completely unpredictable nature of children, no matter the species.
And speaking of navigating, did you notice how the story subtly brings in this critique of consumerism, especially with all the different animal shoppers interacting?
Oh, absolutely. It's cleverly woven into those seemingly everyday interactions. Like, think about Mr. Mittens and Mr. Barkley, right?
Milk to me.
Precisely. Their friendly back and forth over which type of milk is superior isn't just comedic relief. It highlights the choices we make as consumers and how even simple things like picking a milk can be tied to our identities, especially in a world where marketing is constantly telling us what to buy and who to be.
Like WhiskerMart becomes this stage for all these individual preferences and quirks to play out.
And it reminds us that consumerism goes beyond just buying things. It's about expressing ourselves, connecting with others, maybe even a bit of competition thrown in there.
Like that whole thing with the most exotic cheese.
Oh yeah, that was a classic. And don't forget the social aspect of shopping that the story touches on. WhiskerMart isn't just a place to grab your groceries and run. It's a community hub where people, well, animals, come together.
Totally. Like that scene with Mrs. Whiskerbell and Mrs. Hedwig, right?
Catching up in the cereal aisle, swapping recipes, sharing parenting tips. It's those small interactions that create a sense of belonging, showing how even something like grocery shopping can be woven into the social fabric of a community.
It's a good reminder for us all to slow down and appreciate those little moments of connection, even in the most unexpected places.
Exactly. And who knows, you might even get a great recipe out of it.
Or at least a good laugh.
Speaking of laughs, we can't forget the pure comedic gold sprinkled throughout the story. Pounce setting off a symphony of squeaky toys, Splotch creating an orange avalanche.
It adds that layer of authenticity, reminding us that life, even in a fantastical supermarket, is full of unexpected and often hilarious turns.
We've got to embrace the chaos.
So, after this whirlwind tour of WhiskerMart, what's sticking with you? What are your final thoughts?
You know, it's incredible how this seemingly simple tale manages to pack in so much depth. It encourages us to look beyond the surface of everyday life and really think about the forces at play around us, like consumerism's influence, the importance of community, the way different perspectives shape our experiences.
It makes you think, right?
It does. It makes me wonder, what if we all looked at our own shopping habits through this WhiskerMart lens? What would we learn about ourselves and the society we live in?
Wow, that's a great question to ponder. And maybe a good excuse to people watch during our next grocery run.
Always a good source of entertainment.
Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive. It was fun.
The pleasure was all mine. Until next time.